Alright guys, it's Christmas Eve and I already got all my presents wrapped and everything and got a little bit of time to kill around the house here. Well, it's raining really hard, so I don't want to go out, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to work on a new drop riffle sluice, one or two of them. I got these little pine boards from Dr. Phil. I'm going to cut a couple sluices out of them. This is how I do it. I use a table saw. And I cut them one pass at a time. See, what I was doing there is I'm just testing to see how deep I can go. Usually what I'll start out with is at the front of the sluice. I'll start out with some cuts like that and then slowly make them bigger. But you don't want to go too close together, because I did that, and what happens is the heavy material will wear this away and get rid of that wood. So gotta give it a little bit of space. That far. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cut these first cuts at a certain height, and then I'm going to go back through and cut a deeper groove at another height. That's about how far I'm going to space them. Alright, so I made a couple cuts here. I'm up to 5. That's just the first pass. And as you can see, they're not exactly even, but that's fine. And then what I do is once I got these, if I want to widen them, I'll lay it out so the blade is right next to it. See, that's how I'll get my wider cuts. And then later on I'll go back and get a deeper cut in there. But I start out with it gradually like this, so it self-classifies. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to raise the blade ever so slightly so it cuts a deeper groove behind the groove I just cut. There we go. Now I'm going to test it and see how good that is. Alright, you guys can see it's not very deep, so I'm going to raise the blade up some more. And there's the double drop. Alright guys, done a little bit more on it. I'm up to that many riffles now. As you can see, I'm starting to make them bigger as I go back. And then later on I'll come back and cut a little groove as a place for the fine gold to tuck down and hide. But just slow going right now, just steady cutting them one at a time. Alright guys, so here's my basic design. Just a bunch of drop riffles right now. I'm going to go back right now and do the better specialty cuts. But I got about 7 inches of slick plate there, and then a bunch of drops. Alright, I just did my first back cut. It didn't really cut far enough, so I raised the blade some, and we'll see how this one does. Alright, so hopefully you guys can see that. What that's going to do is provide a little hiding place for the gold. When the sluice sits like this, it's going to slide down in there, hopefully. What usually happens though is gravel about that size will get stuck and then plug it up. So that's why I'll usually back cut some of this off to make it easier to clean out. But it's a good start. I'm going to go a little bit deeper on this next one. See that? And then what I'm also going to do is drop a groove down here at the front. Alright, I got all the back cuts done. That's how they look. I didn't do every riffle, I just did some of them. Really, you don't need more than 1 or 2. Gold ain't gonna make it back that far anyway unless you're really doing something wrong. But now I'm fixing to do the deep cuts, what I call the double drops. It's going to be in the front of the riffles. Now I'll alternate. Some of them will be in the back, some will be in the front. You want as much different ways for gold to sell out as possible. Well, that first one, it's a little bit higher than I wanted to do, so I'm going to drop this thing about 1/16 of an inch. That's alright though. See that wood, that little bit of wood that's in there? That's alright, because I'm going to go back and chisel that out. Alright guys, so I got this mostly how I want it. I'm probably just going to stick with this design on this one. Here's how the cuts look from the side. Nothing fancy. But I guarantee you the gold is going to make it past right there. And if it's really turbulent, it might make it past, might make it to right there, but it ain't going to make it past that. And that's all for this piece. Next is going to be the, I have to do some sanding. I'm going to take a wood chisel and, a wood chisel. Scrape this stuff, make it nice and flat. You don't want any kind of ridges or anything because, believe it or not, the vortex that this thing creates, those ridges will actually inhibit it. So You want it as smooth as possible. That's why the plastic sluices work so good. But I'm going to go back and sand all that down and flatten it out a little bit. And also, if you don't, the current will do it naturally, so you might as well do it. And then once I do that, I'm going to stain it. But I'm not going to stain the sides because you want the sides to be used with the liquid nail. They won't stick good to the stains, so I don't stain the sides or nothing. That all gets stained separate. But that'll be the next step. But that's how you cut the board right there. Real easy, it just takes a little bit of time and a table saw. I'm sure you could do it just as good a job with a router or whatever.